What are some of the biggest myths that you've come across, Nicola?
So I think people generally assume that, perhaps if they have a little bit of money coming in from elsewhere or something like that, that they're not going to be entitled to benefits, when actually you might be able to claim a little bit of a top up that makes your life a little bit more comfortable. So I think, the assumption that you're not entitled, there's an organisation called Policy and Practice, and actually they did a report this year, and I think they were predicting something like there was going to be £25 million of unclaimed benefits this year.
Hello, welcome to the Carecast. Hi Nicola, how are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. It's good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Thanks for turning up. So today we're going to talk about welfare benefits, something which is at times incredibly complicated for people, and so a bit of clarity around that would be pretty good, I think. And obviously it's great to speak to experts in the care industry and parallel industry, so thanks for coming on and sharing your knowledge with us.
You're very welcome.
Can you tell us a bit about Renaissance Legal, the company that you work for, and how did you get involved in welfare benefits? People wouldn't necessarily associate a legal law company with welfare benefits.
Yes. So Renaissance Legal is predominantly a private client firm. So what it does, first port of call is wills and trusts and things for people. And we specialise in helping vulnerable and disabled people. So that's partly why we have a welfare benefits team, because often the people we're helping are those that need access to benefits. And there is a link between my lovely colleagues who set up wills and trusts. Often they'll be setting up disabled persons trusts. And there is a link to welfare benefits with disabled persons trusts. That's where I sort of come in, that's my link to the rest of the team, if you like.
Yes.
And so in terms of where I've been and how I ended up here, so welfare benefits is something I kind of fell into, actually. So my education was in law, and my career evolved into different things. For Renaissance, for about 2 years, I worked for a housing association in London for about 10 years. And at that housing association, I moved to the welfare benefits team there. And actually, starting to do that work, I thought, this is great because I can call upon my kind of legal background and my legal education, looking through benefits regulations and all those exciting things. And also help people who are most in need of things. So yeah, that's it really.
Because there's a perception, I think, almost that welfare benefit system is made intentionally complicated in order to make it difficult to apply, but maybe it's just one of those systems that's evolved over time and unintentionally has become incredibly complicated. I know I have seen articles in the Times newspaper where certain councils hire the services of barristers to advise them on how to say no and to be within sort of the legal framework and to do it legally and things like that to save monies. But what's your sort of overall view of the state of the benefits or the welfare system in the UK? Is it a mess, or is that just a perception?
Yeah, so I think, I suppose you've got to be careful about what you read. There's a lot of information out there that isn't necessarily wholly accurate, online and things when you're looking at things. But what I'd say is obviously it's that really social security system is a really old system. You've had various governments, through the years kind of add bits onto it, chop and change things around. That's what's created, I think, is whether it's intentional or not is a very complicated system. We always say there's the rules, and then there's 101 exceptions to the rule. So that's where people like me come in to try and, unpick and work out, what people can claim and things like that, really.
Yep. And there are so many sort of different benefits out there. Can you break down the main types of benefits that people might come across?
the whole system, the social security system, I suppose you can separate it to two different sorts of benefits in a way. So you've got your benefits that act as like an earnings replacement. So that might be for people who are out of work but looking, or people who have a health condition that means that actually they can't work, so they need something to substitute for earning. And then you have the sort of second type, which tends to be for people with health conditions or disabilities, where those conditions mean that they have extra expenses that they've got to pay for. And so those are kind of, the two kind of high level areas of welfare benefits.
No, it's interesting. It simplifies the whole understanding of it, really, to be able to classify it into two bits. A lot of people probably have the wrong idea about claiming benefits. What are some of the biggest myths that you've come across, Nicola?
I think people generally assume that, perhaps if they have a little bit of money coming in from elsewhere or something like that, that they're not going to be entitled to benefits, when actually you might be able to claim a little bit of a top up that makes your life a little bit more comfortable. So I think, the assumption that you're not entitled, there's an organisation called Policy and Practice, and actually they did a report this year, and I think they were predicting something like there was going to be £25 million of unclaimed benefits this year. So
25. Was it million? Was that million or billion?
Million.
Oh, okay. I would have thought it would be more than that, actually, when you think across the country. But
it's a huge amount, isn't it, that's available to people that's, could be claimed and isn't.
No, absolutely. What sort of practical tips might you give to someone looking to claim for the first time? I suppose step one is to try to figure out what could apply to you, what could be available to you.
Yeah, so what you want to do if you're someone who, wants to know what is available to you, obviously, firstly, you need to start by, so there are things like calculators online. You can kind of get a feel for benefits entitlement. Obviously, you can do that over and over again if you've had changes in circumstances and things. Or if you feel like you can't face that online calculator and you'd rather speak to a human being, then obviously you can consult with a specialist to work that out. Like, that's the starting point, really.
Yeah. And a lot of people actually worry about doing all sorts of, in inverted commas, official things if they don't feel that they've got all their documentation to hand. I know I do. What sort of documents and evidence do you tend to need when going through this process? Is it a lot? Should people think, well, let's get everything together before starting, or should they just get on with it?
Yes, I feel exactly the same as you. It's worth doing a little bit of preparation before you then have a book in front of you, or you're going online to get a claim form. You want to have everything ready. So with those earnings replacement benefits that I mentioned, they tend to be means tested. So when you apply for those, the DWP will look at your income and your savings and things. So what you want to have ready if you're claiming a means benefit is things like normally they'll ask for things like 3 months worth of bank statements and things like that. So obviously people don't get them monthly by post anymore, do they? So it might involve a request from the bank or accessing online banking, but it's just making sure you've got those ready before you start the claim, really. I find it's quite a good idea to just have everything. When you claim, the DWP will also check your ID. So it's just making sure you've got those to hand, upload a photo or take it somewhere to get it photocopied for the DWP. It's one of those little things that it's a good idea to have ready. Where documentation comes in and is really important is with those other types of benefits. So those non-means tested benefits for people with health conditions and disabilities. Because when you apply for those, what it is they're going to be looking at health conditions, what difficulties you have, what care and support needs you have. So if you've had a medical letter that explains your diagnosis, or or you have carers come daily and you've got a care plan there. All of those sort of documentation that helps explain your health condition is really critical, really, for those particular types of benefit.
Yeah, and they're always available from third parties as well. So it's not as if you need to have those sitting on a inside the cabinet or on your kitchen table or anything.
No, absolutely. Yeah, you normally always request them via your GP or your social worker if you have one.
And for someone who's actually caring for a loved one and helping them to claim benefits, a friend of mine was claiming attendance allowance for his dad recently, and I was helping to advise him. What's the best way for them to do that? Do they need to become something called an appointee? And can you define what that is?
Yes, yeah. So it might be that you're helping someone who is actually reasonably independent still, and in that case you might just want to help them in the background with their claim and not be signing anything or making any calls on their behalf, just there to support them in the background. But if you're helping someone who is, has not necessarily got capacity to one, make that benefits claim and then to look after it on an ongoing basis, what the DWP have in place is an appointeeship process. So that is individual to the DWP, so it doesn't matter what anything else that person's got in place in terms of help that they get with looking after their sort of finances as a whole. You can apply to become someone's DWP appointee without having, for example, power of attorney or apprenticeship in place.
Those more complicated
things. Completely individual to the DWP.
And is that sort of an online process, or do you start online and get a letter sent out for someone to sign their agreement to that? What's the sort of process on that?
Yes. If you're sorting it out when you're making a new claim as part of the claim process, you can say, okay, I'm such and such, I'm such and such's sister, I'm going to be helping them, I need to register to become their appointee. And that initiates the process with the DWP. What they normally do is arrange to come and see you, just to check that you're suitable to basically be an appointee. It's nothing, if you get an interview from the DWP, when you ask to become an appointee, it's nothing to be fearful of. It's just them double checking that you're okay to take on the role.
Yep. Not every claim goes smoothly, and you do hear about back and forth. What of claims with asking for further information or whatever? What are the common hurdles that people tend to face in making claims, and how do they sometimes get around them?
Yeah, so I totally understand that communication with the DWP is always terribly easy. And so if you're phoning the DWP, you're met with kind of DWP agents or handlers who aren't necessarily trained in sort of the decision making process, if you like. So that can be a little bit of an issue sometimes to get, the information that you need or updates that you need. So what I would say, if ever anyone's with their communication, is to follow that up in writing and just make that request for what you want in writing, the outcome or responses that you want. So if you do have a complaints mechanism, which can be used, not getting what you need, or the response is really low, that you can do is you can complain to the DWP and just say, I've been waiting, however many months for this update.
Yep. And
that tends to be a nudge in the right direction for them to respond.
Gotcha. And you yourself, how do you tend to communicate with the DWP? Is it sometimes by phone, or do they have a system where they maybe have the person's name on the computer and you can upload files relating to that and upload messages? How do they, I take it they probably don't exchange emails with you?
Yes, so it does, like you say, vary depending on what benefit it is. With the older style means testing benefits, so this things like employment and support allowance, things like that. You have to phone. What I often do as an advisor is write to the department, because it means I can send an authority form signed by the claimant, and then that goes on their record, and then I can help them out with whatever particular thing that I'm helping them with. And then with the newer kind of style benefits that are coming in, a newer style means test benefit will be first credit. So with that, it's an online application. And once you've done the online application, you then have an online account that you access.
Yeah.
So with that, you have this two-way communication and messaging sort of mechanism that you can use for the online account.
Yep.
So that's actually quite handy system, because you can have that real-time kind of instant sort of message communication, which is much better, really.
Yeah. So it sounds as if they try to modernise communications and to be efficient.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's moving that way. And they saying that universal credit is all online, they do still have a means to conduct it offline, because obviously some people can't use these online accounts. So there is a kind of backup for a non-online claim if that's needed.
Absolutely. Are there any organisations, websites or support services you'd recommend to people looking for guidance on benefits?
Yeah, as I mentioned, there are online calculators, which is your kind of, what I'd say is your kind of first port of call to suss out what you might be able to claim. And there's a website called Entitled to.
Yes.
And there's a website called Turn2us as well. So they both have really quite good benefits calculators on there. And then, so what I would probably recommend for other people is to look at charities that are relevant perhaps to a health condition that you have.
Yep.
So, for example, SENSE and things like MenCap or the National Autistic Society, they all have a bit of an area to do with sort of financial benefits advice, and they can be quite handy.
Yep.
With charity websites, you always know that they've kind of fact-checked what they're putting on there. So I would normally trust that what they've got on there is nice and accurate.
Gotcha. And are you open to instructions yourself, or is it mainly just the firm's existing clients that you help, Nicola?
Yeah, so we can take inquiries from anybody. So we take inquiries via our office number and our info@email address, which I'm sure you will provide.
Yeah. And the URL of your website?
It's all one word, renaissancelegal.co.uk.
Yeah. Okay, and from there, obviously, people will be able to see the phone number.
Yeah, so we've got a lovely client support team, who would, if someone calls, that's who you speak to initially, and they will talk you through, how we can help them or signpost you elsewhere if that's your best bet.
And if you had to give one last sort of piece of advice for someone thinking of claiming benefits, what other than stay calm, what would it be? I would say, obviously, going back to what we were saying about unclaimed benefits, is don't make the assumption that you're not entitled. Do your homework, whether that's checking on the online calculator or speaking to a specialist like myself or someone else, because you've got nothing to do by exploring your entitlement. So, and if you do apply and you don't quite get the discipline you expect, or you're disappointed with it, ask questions, don't be afraid to get what you should get. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Nicola. Really appreciate your time. And once again, to get in touch with Renaissance Legal, it's renaissancelegal.co.uk, isn't it?
Yes, yeah.
Amazing.
Correct.
Thanks to all our listeners and watchers for watching. If you found the video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more valuable tips and insights in and around your care journey.